If you take this TalkSport interview with Spencer Oliver and a belligerent Gareth Davis, and these two interviews with Robert Garcia at face value, it doesn't paint a particularly positive picture for Anthony Joshua. Because in this interview, Spencer Oliver reveals that since AJ arrived in Saudi Arabia, he's been in the WhatsApp group chats with Spencer and I guess other people connected to Finchley ABC. And he's been asking them constantly how he thinks, or how they think, should I say, he should approach the fight. And that kind of reminds you of what he was doing in the run-up to the first Usyk fight, where right before the opening bell, he leaned over the ropes and asked Clifton Mitchell how he thought he should approach the fight and what he thought of Alexander Usyk. And in these interviews with Robert Garcia, Garcia isn't exactly exuding confidence. He, on several occasions, said that him and AJ have basically butted heads because he's wanted AJ to do certain things in the gym and AJ didn't really want to do it. And he also said several times that if AJ believes in his team, then he can win the fight. But he hasn't seemed very positive about AJ winning the fight. He says that AJ has all the tools. We've been working hard to try and get him to believe in his tools. But it all comes down to how confident he's going to be in the ring on the night and how much faith he has in his team. Because again, going into the first fight, he didn't appear to have that much faith in his team. Is this the face of a man in Robert Garcia who is maybe frustrated? And is this someone who is preparing their excuses? Is he going to come out after the fight at some point, maybe not immediately, but weeks or months down the line and say, I tried with AJ, but he just didn't believe in me enough. He didn't do the stuff that I wanted him to do. Is that what we're going to hear from him? Also, I found it interesting in this interview that when the interviewer asked him whether he would, if AJ wins, whether he would continue working with AJ basically and going to the UK for training camps or what have you, Garcia was non-committal. He spoke about how difficult it's been being away from his family for, I guess it's 4 months since he's been with AJ. And yeah, he didn't seem enthusiastic about working with AJ again. Is this the first and last time we'll see Robert Garcia in AJ's corner? Now, I'm asking questions here. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. But again, if you take these interviews at face value, these are the questions that you may come up with. And some people will say that, look, Robert Garcia is probably making more money here from AJ than he's making from any of his other fighters. In fact, almost certainly. But money isn't, I know it sounds cliche, it isn't everything to everyone. Some people are more money hungry than others. Robert Garcia was a pro fighter himself at world championship level. He's trained a bunch of championship fighters, Marcus Maidana and so on. I'm sure he's had plenty of decent paydays as a trainer. And also he has a family. He's missed certain family events like his daughter's graduation and so on. He's had, I guess, friends who have been ill and what have you. So these things might mean more to him than the extra money he's getting from being in AJ's corner. And bear in mind that he trains several fighters back in the United States, not just one. So perhaps the money that he gets from several fighters might add up to something close to what he's getting for AJ. And training all those other fighters, I guess, has to go on hold to some degree. So yeah, that's the question that popped up in my head. Is this a man who's actually happy to continue working with AJ after this point? I guess the result of the fight may, make a difference in terms of whether Garcia chooses to continue working with AJ or not. But if you just take all this stuff at face value, it doesn't appear to paint a very positive picture, as I said at the start. Also, if you read this interview here with AJ on TalkSport, he talks about what it's been like working with Robert Garcia. And he said, it's hard to adapt to someone's whole style in the space of 3 or 4 months, but he's definitely shown me a lot and he's been a massive help. There's so many ways people can help, so he's helped me. It's not from the point of view of changing my whole style, because I can't do that. I'm a rangy boxer, but he's just helped me with pushing me in the gym, more punches, getting fitter. Those types of things make a big difference. So again, this kind of, I guess, backs up what Robert Garcia was saying, whereby him and AJ have butted heads a few times in the gym, because AJ is saying that he can't adapt to Robert Garcia's style in the space of 4 months completely. You can learn a few bits and pieces, but you can't change his whole style. And that's true. And I said in a previous video that I don't think AJ should be trying to change his whole style. I don't think he should try to change too much, because that can confuse a fighter, okay? But taking all this at face value might look one way, but if you dig a little deeper, maybe there's something else going on. Now, with regards to the group chat and all this type of stuff, this perhaps isn't likely because AJ's team haven't seemed to operate this way in the past. AJ hasn't seemed to operate this way. But is there the possibility that it's misdirection? Is there the possibility that AJ is pretending to not be sure of his team, not be confident in Robert Garcia, and asking questions of all types of other people? Does he want that word to get around and get back to Usyk, to make Usyk overconfident, to make Usyk maybe come out really aggressive and walk onto one of AJ's shots? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just throwing it out there as a possibility. Also, with regards to these clashes that Robert Garcia has been having with AJ in the gym, and I'm not saying that these are big raging arguments, but they've had disagreements several times, Robert Garcia has said, with AJ. Could it be that Robert Garcia, who's a very experienced trainer, who was a fighter himself, etc., he's worked with many different characters, a guy like this doesn't just understand the technical aspects of boxing. Perhaps he understands the psychological aspects of boxing very, very well, to such an extent that maybe he's thinking, I want to anger Anthony Joshua in the gym. I want to try and push him to get him into a mean mood, to get him to be more spiteful, because that has been the objective of Robert Garcia. He's openly said that he wants AJ to be more mean. Well, go in the gym and poke the guy. Pause, right? Pause. But go in the gym and get under his skin as the trainer. And Robert Garcia said that early on, when he started working with AJ, he told him that me and Angel Fernandez are going to do things, and there are going to be certain days that you're not going to like us. Yeah? So maybe that's part of the strategy of trying to actually anger AJ so that he can get that meanness out of him in the spars, in the training sessions, and ultimately in the fight. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below about all of these possibilities. Now, finally, I want you to have a look at this. This is Anthony Joshua in an interview this week out there in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. I spoke about the fact that he's trying to, or he appears to be trying to, channel his old self by going back to the old trim, by talking a little bit more like he used to. And shout out to Outmatch Boxing, by the way, Boxing Brotherhood. Outmatch also noticed the fact that AJ is wearing more solid colors now, whereas before he was wearing like blacks and grays and whites when he would get in the ring, whereas now he's wearing all these more vibrant, bright colors, like earlier on in his career when he used to wear like red trunks, sometimes solid black trunks, etc., etc. Is this all part of AJ, again, trying to channel his old self? Maybe. As I said in the previous video, it seems a bit deliberate. In order to channel your old self, you don't necessarily need to start wearing the clothes that you used to wear and having the haircut that you used to have. In some instances, that might work, but it reminds me, for example, of when David Haye rematched Tony Bellew. In the first fight, David Haye had the Sideshow Bob haircut, and he had black trunks on, very short black trunks, black shoes, I think, black boxing boots. But he obviously lost that fight. In the rematch, he went back to his old style. He went back to the cane rolls, he went back to the Union Jack shorts, and so on. And it was worse for him second time than first time. Now, I'm not saying that the Union Jack shorts and the cane rolls made all the difference in terms of making it worse for him. But maybe a fighter can rely on those things a bit too much. Maybe they need to find themselves or find their old self in a different kind of way, because it's a feeling you're looking for rather than aesthetic. But yeah, what I want you guys to look at here is just look at Anthony Joshua's eyes here. Look at his face. And you can, put this video at any moment. You can also look at AJ at the press conference when he's next to Usyk. Just look at his face, look at his eyes. And then compare that to 2015 when he did the face-off with Dillian Whyte. And not just the face-off, even the interviews that he did in the run-up to that fight with various YouTube channels and what have you. Look at his face here and compare it to his face here. This is a guy with malice in him. You know what I mean? Look at AJ's demeanor. His whole energy, just by looking at his eyes, you can tell that his whole energy is different. This is not the same guy. Where has this guy gone? And I know many of you have been telling me for years that this guy left the room after the Klitschko fight, that fight has changed him forever. And it's possible that that's true. It's also possible that the Andy Ruiz fight contributed to that. There could be a number of different factors. Teddy Atlas seems to be of the view that it could be as simple as AJ having made too much money. That's what Teddy Atlas is saying. That maybe AJ, like the old Marvin Hagler quote where he's talking about silk pajamas. Maybe that's what it is with AJ. Just made too much money. Maybe the old Eye of the Tiger AJ was just a moment in time for him when he was a young, frustrated, angry youth. But since growing into manhood and experiencing different things in life and becoming a dad, etc., he just doesn't have this in him anymore. Some people are just natural fighters. They're naturally combative and they have this natural mean streak and it never goes away. I mean, Mike Tyson would be a great example. Dillian Whyte is a great example. Tyson Fury. These are guys that just have a fighting spirit in them that cannot be extinguished. It doesn't matter what environment you put them in. It doesn't matter whether they're a youth growing up who doesn't have much money and he's involved in maybe some petty crime. Doesn't matter whether he's in that situation or whether he's 30 years old and he's a dad and he's a multimillionaire. He's still got that same mentality. Whereas with other people, it could just be the environment, the kind of people they're hanging around at the time brings out a certain aspect of their personality. Maybe their testosterone's really high as a teenager and a young adult. And that's when they feel mean and angry and they've got lots of frustrations about the world. And during that period, they can produce good results in the ring, But once they're out of that environment and once their mindset has changed and they've experienced different things in life, they just don't have it in them anymore, Because that wasn't a key or a core aspect of their personality to begin with. It was just a minor aspect, which was amplified due to the environment they were in. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, could that be the case with AJ as well? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. The one, I guess, positive that I'm going to take, if you're looking at it from an AJ perspective, is that he seems relaxed. All through fight week, I've been looking at AJ and he doesn't look like a man. Maybe he's good at masking it. It's a possibility. But he doesn't show any overt signs of being nervous or being worried. In the run-up to the Ruiz rematch, he looked a lot more tense to me. But here, he doesn't seem as tense. Here, he seems relaxed. Maybe it's because of the fact that Usyk didn't knock him out. Maybe it's because he's getting more used to losing, as I said in a previous video. I don't know. But I think him being relaxed is necessary. I'd prefer, again, from an AJ perspective, if he was relaxed, yes, but he had that old cockiness about him. You see, when he did the face-off with Dillian Whyte, he had this malice in his eyes, and oftentimes you would see this cocky smile on his face. You saw it, for example, when he fought Gary Cornish, when he fought Dillian Whyte. Many of those early fights of AJ's, he just had this cocky swagger about him. We haven't seen that for a very long time. Some people say they saw glimpses of it against Kubrat Pulev, but yeah, that was just glimpses. Here, it was radiating off him. You couldn't mistake it. So, yeah, that's what I'll say about the AJ thing. Looks relaxed, but he's going to need to put the pedal to the metal in this fight against Alexander Usyk. He's not going to need to be reckless, but he's going to need to be physical. And if you look at a lot of Usyk's fights where people have taken it to him, he's not the most difficult guy to back up. You know, he's not normally the kind of guy where if you attack him, he's going to stand in the middle of the ring and just start trading leather with you. It's not really like that. If you watch the Maris Breeders fight and several other fights where people really go at him, he will give up ground. He will become more defensive. He will play it a bit safer rather than trying to fight you off. You see what I'm saying? And that could play into AJ's hands because he is the bigger, stronger man. And if he imposes himself, then he will be able to get Usyk's respect at certain moments in the fight. I think defense is going to be key here for Anthony Joshua. I don't think he needs to do anything too sophisticated. I just think he needs to keep his hands up. You look at a guy like Murat Gassiev. He lost to Usyk, yes, but he was able to go the distance. There was no danger of him getting stopped in the fight. And, you know, you could say that Gassiev maybe's got a better chin or whatever the case may be. But Usyk isn't normally a guy who, if you've got a real tight defense, he's going to stay on you and try and break you down and take you out. He's occasionally done that. I mean, we saw him do that against Marco Huck, but there have been other occasions, like when he won the title against Glavatsky, where he just stayed on the outside and boxed. But Glavatsky was stalking him and coming forward, but Usyk really didn't try to take him out or anything like that. And there's been a number of fights where Usyk has been that way, where he hasn't really pushed the issue. He's just stayed on the outside and, you know, not really gone for it. If he sees a weakness, of course, he's going to go for it. But Usyk, from what I've seen in the past, isn't the kind of guy who's going to take risks in order to go for it. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's certain fighters who, Holyfield, for example, he would want to get you out of there rather than just playing it safe over the 12 rounds. If he's beating you, outboxing you comfortably, he's like, nah, I'm actually going to take risks now. I'm going to risk getting clipped and go in and hurt this guy and finish him. I'm not saying that's necessarily the best thing to do, okay? But in this particular instance, Usyk's, I don't want to call him risk averse because he does take a certain amount of risk, but he's not as willing to take risks as someone like a Holyfield. And that might play into AJ's hands if he's aggressive enough. That might allow him to control the action a little bit. You see? So it's going to be fascinating anyway to see the way the fight plays out, the game plan, whether AJ listens to Robert Garcia. You know, I still don't like the situation where there isn't any clear head trainer, where Robert Garcia and Angel Fernandez are saying, oh yeah, we work well together. No, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about one guy being the voice, one guy being in charge. I don't want to hear about no partnership or anything. I want to hear about one guy. And if this isn't misdirection by AJ in terms of being involved in the group chats on WhatsApp and asking everybody what they think he should do, if that isn't misdirection, then again, it doesn't look good for AJ, and he seriously needs to stop doing all that. He needs to just listen to Robert Garcia, end of. The guy's got the experience. There's no need to and look, if you can't do everything that Robert Garcia wants you to do, that's okay. You might not need to do everything he wants you to do. But what you shouldn't be doing is trying to listen to everybody else, because you're just going to get confused. You're going to get too many ideas in your head. And I know AJ is a sponge, and that's why he was able to achieve so much in such a short space of time, both amateur and pro. But you need to be a sponge at this stage of your career, and for this particular fight, with just one guy. One guy giving you the information that you absorb, not a load of different people. Just one guy. But AJ is what he is. A leopard can't change its spots. And if that's his personality type, then I guess that's what it is. The only way you can change is if you want to change. And it's hard, even if you want to change certain aspects of your personality. It can be very, very difficult, particularly, as I say, at this age, where It's all really hardwired into you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below about all the points I've raised in the video. Again, I'm not saying that any of this stuff is the case. I'm throwing possibilities out there. So let me know what you think. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment. You can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.